There are women who do not speak, yet they are heard in every corner of the room. Their silence is not absence, it is presence. It is not emptiness, it is fullness. In my years of observing the human spirit, I have noticed a certain energy that some women possess, a magnetic power that cannot be imitated or taught through traditional means. This is not charm, it is not merely beauty, it is something deeper, more ancient. A vibration of the feminine spirit that resonates beyond words and gestures. It does not seek attention, it commands it. This presence stirs the subconscious of those around her. She may sit quietly, lost in her own world, and yet others find themselves revolving around her. Men may not fully understand why they feel uneasy in her presence. Women are drawn to her and may not know whether to envy her or admire her. But what they feel is real. The magnetic presence of a woman who embodies the deep codes of femininity. Now I am going to tell you about the 6 feminine habits that unlock this irresistible power. Take the time to read it through to the end and unlock the hidden power within you. There is a kind of woman who does not speak loudly, yet people lean in when she enters a room. She does not demand attention, she evokes it. It is not in what she says, but in how she listens, in the way she allows space to unfold between herself and the world. This is the feminine power of receptivity. In my studies of the human psyche, I've observed that when a woman embodies receptivity, she becomes magnetic. She does not pursue, and yet she is pursued. She does not chase, and yet she is never forgotten. This is not weakness, nor shyness. It is a quiet kind of confidence that speaks to the unconscious minds of others. When a woman is receptive, she is present, not to control but to receive. She does not rush to fill silence. She does not try to impress. Instead, she watches, she listens, she lets others unfold before her. And in doing so, she invites depth. Men especially feel this invitation. They find themselves speaking more, revealing more, trying harder, all without knowing why. Her stillness acts as a mirror, reflecting parts of them they didn't know were waiting to be seen. A man may not remember exactly what she said, but he remembers how calm he felt around her. He remembers how his nervousness dissolved in her presence. He remembers how seen he felt when her eyes met his, not with judgment or demand, but with acceptance. And that memory stays with him long after the conversation ends. The receptive woman is not idle. She is not passive. She is deeply aware, tuned in, and selective. She opens the door, but only to those who knock with sincerity. This discernment adds to her mystery. She doesn't need to prove anything. Her energy speaks before she does, and it lingers long after she's gone. Receptivity is not emptiness. It is a fullness so rich, it pulls others in without effort. It is this quiet strength, this open space, that becomes the first code of feminine magnetism. She is not the one who arrives loudly. She is the one who is remembered deeply. Code 2. The soft power of kindness. There is a silent glow in the smallest gestures, the way she gently offers help, the warmth in her smile, when she shares a light joke, the tenderness in her eyes, when someone around her struggles. Many overlook these things, but I have found that the unconscious mind never does. A man may not realize it immediately, but when he sees a woman act with effortless kindness, when she lifts someone's burden, or simply listens with genuine interest, something shifts inside him. He is not merely witnessing behavior, he is feeling something. It is not just her beauty that draws him, it is her capacity to make others feel safe, seen, and valued. You see, kindness is not weakness, it is a spiritual strength. And when it flows naturally from a woman, she becomes more than attractive, she becomes unforgettable. The way she moves through the world, offering small comforts, small laughs, small moments of lightness, this is the quiet artistry of feminine magnetism. The masculine psyche is deeply moved by it, not because he needs help, but because in her kindness, he senses that she could understand him, that she might be the one who wouldn't mock his weakness, wouldn't turn away from his confusion. It is then that a question arises within him, quietly but persistently. How could I ever be indifferent to someone who sees me and still chooses to give? This is the hidden effect of compassion. It disarms the defenses of others. It softens what was guarded. And it speaks not only to the man's conscious mind, but to his shadow, the part of him that longs for connection, but doesn't always know how to ask for it. Kindness in a woman is not decoration. It is not politeness. It is the very substance of her presence. A soft power that leaves fingerprints on the soul. It shifts the air in a room without asking permission. It reminds people that gentleness still exists, and it makes them want to be near it again and again. There is a moment in a woman's life when she stops trying to be chosen and begins to choose. That moment is not loud. It is not marked by a declaration or a dramatic change. It is internal. It is still, and yet its effect is seismic. This is the third feminine code. Still confidence, a kind of presence that does not beg, compete, or explain itself. It simply is. When a woman no longer moves from a place of needing validation, her energy becomes magnetic in a new way. She walks differently, not because she tries, but because something inside her has settled. Her gaze no longer searches for approval. It lands softly, but with weight. She doesn't fill silences with nervous words. She lets them exist. She allows herself to take up space, emotionally, spiritually, energetically, and men feel it immediately. They may not be able to name it, but they sense the absence of desperation, the absence of fear, the absence of pretending. She is not waiting to be seen. She already sees herself. That is what unsettles them. That is what draws them in. You see, we are wired to respond to self-assurance, but when that confidence is feminine, not forceful, not performative, but embodied, it becomes even more powerful. It does not need to announce itself. It is felt through gestures, through silences, through the refusal to shrink in the presence of others. This kind of woman doesn't flirt to be liked. She doesn't agree just to be accepted. She can sit across from you, fully present, and not need anything from you. And yet in that very independence, something in you leans forward, hoping for an invitation in. Still, confidence is not coldness. It is warmth with boundaries. It is softness without collapse. It is the quiet knowing that I am enough, even when I give nothing extra. And perhaps that is why she is so unforgettable, because she does not try to be. And if you are still with me, I want you to express this in the comments by writing, "I am bringing peace into my life." This is not a comment. This is an intention. This is a silent but determined promise you are making with your energy. Now, we are moving on to the most important code. Code 4. Emotional depth. I have often said that the unconscious mind is not moved by appearances but by resonance, and nothing resonates more deeply than authentic emotion. The fourth feminine code is this: a woman's ability to feel and to allow others to feel through her. This world often teaches women to be emotionally composed, strategically distant, or endlessly cheerful. But the woman who embodies true feminine magnetism does not numb herself to be more palatable. She does not shrink her emotional range to avoid discomfort. She feels deeply, unapologetically, and without shame. And in doing so, she awakens something buried in others. A man may not know why her silence feels heavier than another's words. He may not understand why her sadness moves him, or why her laughter lingers in his memory longer than anything she wore. But this is the truth. When a woman feels fully, she invites others back into their own forgotten depth. She is not dramatic. She is not unstable. She is alive. Her emotional honesty acts like a mirror, and for those who have lived in their heads too long, who have kept their feelings locked away, being around her is like remembering the taste of water after years of thirst. Men are not only drawn to joy or beauty, they are drawn to realness, to the woman who doesn't perform happiness, but who radiates presence in whatever state she's in. Her vulnerability is not weakness, it is an offering. It says, "This is me, fully feeling and still standing." And that more than any perfection creates trust. She becomes unforgettable, not because she hides her chaos, but because she integrates it. Because she lets her emotions rise like waves, and yet she does not drown. She holds space for herself, and that unconsciously makes others feel they can fall apart and still be held. True emotional depth is not volatility, it is clarity. It is not reacting wildly, it is responding soulfully. And when a woman moves through the world with this kind of inner honesty, she doesn't need to seduce, her very presence evokes feeling. She becomes the storm that awakens, the ocean that calms, the fire that burns without destroying. Code 5. When a woman does not reveal everything, she reveals more. In a world obsessed with transparency, where everything is explained, shared, and exposed, mystery has become rare, and therefore profoundly attractive. The fifth feminine code is one of the oldest: mystery, the sacred unknown she does not offer, even when others demand it. This is not a game, it is not manipulation, it is an energetic boundary, a knowing that not everything sacred should be spoken aloud. Some women think they must be completely understood to be loved, but I have found the opposite to be true. When a woman retains a part of herself, not out of fear but out of reverence, she becomes unforgettable. Not because she hides, but because she respects the layers of her soul. Mystery is not confusion, it is depth. It is the silent invitation that whispers, "There is more to me than what you see now." And that invitation echoes in a man's psyche long after she has left the room. Men are not only drawn to what is offered freely, they are magnetized by what feels eternal, unknowable, slightly out of reach. Not because they want to possess it, but because it awakens their own desire to search, to understand, to become worthy of approaching what is rare. You see, the feminine becomes magnetic, not by saying everything, but by holding something back with intention. She may smile, but you cannot guess her thoughts. She may laugh, but you feel a river beneath her joy. She may speak gently, but in her silence lives entire worlds. This is the woman who draws others in, not with noise, but with the stillness of what she chooses not to say. Mystery is not about being distant, it is about being dimensional. It is about having stories you do not need to share, wounds you have healed without performing them, and dreams that are too wild to be named. When a man meets this kind of woman, he feels something ancient stir in him. The call not to conquer, but to wonder. And wonder is where true attraction lives, not in the known, but in the unfolding. Code 6. When a woman belongs to herself, the world belongs to her. There is a power greater than beauty, louder than words, and more enduring than attention. A woman who is at home within her own soul. The sixth and final code is this: alignment. A woman in tune with her truth becomes unshakable, and therefore unforgettable. She is not chasing purpose, she is purpose in motion. Her joy doesn't depend on external approval. Her value isn't measured by reaction, attention, or desire. She has already chosen herself, and that quiet devotion to her inner world becomes the very thing that draws others toward her. Most people live at the surface, responding, reacting, pleasing, proving. But this woman has gone inward. She has walked the corridors of her own longing, sat with her fears, kissed her brokenness, and reclaimed her light. She has returned to herself again and again, and now she does not beg for love, because she is love. She does not seek wholeness, because she moves from wholeness. Her presence no longer says, "Choose me." It says, "I have already chosen myself. Would you like to meet me there?" When a man stands before a woman like this, something ancient awakens in him. He doesn't just see her, he feels her. And in that feeling, he recognizes a rare truth, that this woman cannot be owned, but she can be met, soul to soul. The magnetic presence she carries does not come from what she shows others, it comes from the alignment she holds when no one is watching. In her solitude, she has become radiant. In her silence, she has become known. In her inner world, she has built a sanctuary, and those who enter it feel the difference. You see, the woman who has befriended her own soul does not walk, she moves through space with meaning. She does not perform, she exists with intention. And that, more than anything, is the mark she leaves on every heart she touches. To be aligned with yourself is not a final destination. It is a practice, a devotion, a return. And in that return, over and over again, she becomes the kind of woman who changes rooms, shifts hearts, and is never truly forgotten. She does not belong to anyone. She belongs to herself, and that is the most magnetic truth of all. There is something you must understand now, something vital. Because knowing the feminine codes is not enough. You can embody receptivity, you can offer kindness, you can carry mystery and emotional depth. But unless you know how to direct that energy, it may turn inward into confusion, exhaustion, or unnecessary pain. Many women awaken to their magnetism only to find that they begin attracting more intensity, not more peace. They draw people in, but not all of them are good for the heart. They shine brightly, only to feel used, abandoned, or misunderstood. Why? Because your power must be guided by awareness. When your feminine energy is activated, it becomes a signal, a call. But what you call in depends on your inner alignment. Without it, even your light will attract shadows. This is the forgotten truth. You are not just a field of energy, you are a conscious steward of it. If you don't know your own boundaries, others will write over them. If you don't know your values, charm will trick you into staying where your spirit longs to leave. If you don't know your wounds, your magnetism will recreate the same cycles, but in different bodies. You must become the woman who doesn't just attract, but also discerns, who doesn't just receive, but also redirects what doesn't serve. You must become not only the flame, but also the keeper of that flame. Because feminine energy without conscious self-awareness becomes self-sacrifice. And that is not sacred, it is self-forgetting. If you often find yourself attracting what hurts, rather than what heals, if your softness gets mistaken for availability, if your openness draws in those who only want to take, then you are not cursed. You are simply being called to choose yourself more deeply than you ever have before. Your archetypes are already within you. But which ones are running the show? The wounded maiden who confuses being needed with being loved. The shadow queen who protects herself by rejecting intimacy first. The abandoned child who accepts half love because full love feels unfamiliar. Or the conscious woman who knows her worth even in silence. The sovereign who allows love in, but never at the cost of her peace. The awakened feminine who is tender, powerful, present, and no longer afraid of her own light. You see, your magnetism is real. It is working, but now is the moment to ask yourself, what exactly am I drawing in with it and why? This is where your healing begins. Not in being more beautiful, more likable, more divine, but in becoming more aware, more honest, more loyal to your own soul than to anyone else's expectations. And in that loyalty, your energy shifts. It becomes sharper, cleaner, still magnetic, but now it is sacred, not scattered. Now it does not just invite, it chooses. So speak to yourself like the force you are. Remind yourself of what you will no longer tolerate, not out of anger, but out of deep remembrance. Say to yourself, I do not dim to be digestible. My energy is not random, it is intentional. If you cannot meet me in depth, you will lose me in silence. I will not bleed for a bond. Let these truths settle into your body. Let them rewire the story. Because the woman you are becoming already lives inside you. She is just waiting for your permission to lead. Now you have the codes. But more importantly, now you have the choice. And that is where everything changes. And yet, even with all this knowing, there will be moments you forget. Moments you slip into old versions of yourself. The one who waited too long, gave too much, hoped too hard. That woman may still live in you. But now you recognize her not as who you are, but as who you used to be. Do not shame her, do not silence her. She only ever wanted love. She only ever wanted to feel safe, seen and chosen. But now you are learning that safety is something you build within. That being seen starts when you look at yourself with truth, not judgment. That to be chosen begins when you stop abandoning your own needs for someone else's potential. And that is the essence of the awakened feminine. She no longer betrays herself to keep the peace. She no longer begs fate to bring her worth, because she remembers she is the source. True magnetism does not come from longing. It comes from returning. Returning to the body, returning to breath, returning to what is real, grounded, and alive within you. Some days you may feel raw, unseen, or misunderstood, and that's okay. Even the most powerful women have moments of doubt. The difference now is that you don't stay there. You catch yourself in the spiral. You place a hand on your heart. You soften your jaw. You remember, I have felt lost before, but I always find myself again. Let that be your practice. Because embodiment is not a single moment of awakening. It is a devotion, to walk like someone who belongs to herself, to speak like someone who trusts her intuition more than the noise, to love like someone who knows that love is not a transaction, but a state of being. Your energy does not have to be loud to be powerful. Your presence does not have to be perfect to be sacred. In fact, the more real you are, the more aligned you become. And the more aligned you are, the more precise your magnetism becomes. You begin to draw in not just attention, but resonance. Not just people, but matches. Not just desire, but devotion. Because now you no longer tolerate energy that doesn't meet you in wholeness. You no longer explain your softness or your silence. You no longer give love in the hope that it will be returned. You give love because you are love, and you receive love because you have learned that you deserve it. And here is one final truth I want you to carry. You are not too late. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are awakening. And awakening always begins in the dark, when things fall apart, when patterns repeat, when the ache becomes too familiar to ignore. But now you are paying attention, you are remembering, and most of all, you are choosing. Not from desperation, not from emptiness, but from embodiment. Because you are beginning to understand the truth most people miss. I do not attract what I want. I attract who I am. Desire alone is not magnetism. You may want tenderness, but if you still speak harshly to yourself, you will repel it. You may want loyalty, but if you betray your own heart in small silent ways, you will invite the same. You may want to be seen, but if you keep hiding your truth to be accepted, you will keep being looked at, but never really known. What you attract is not dictated by your wishes, but by your frequency, the felt experience of who you are beneath performance. The world doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your energy. And your energy is shaped by every choice you make, when no one is watching. When you walk away from what drains you, even if it's familiar, you shift your signal. When you say no to what once had power over you, you reclaim that power. When you rest, nourish, ground, cry, breathe, create, or even do nothing at all, but do it in truth, you become more magnetic than any illusion could ever make you. Because you are not calling in what you imagine, you are calling in what matches your level of self-regard. That is why the real work is always inner work. Not fixing, but remembering. Not chasing, but clearing space. Not efforting, but aligning. And this is the true journey of the feminine, to shift from doing to being, from forcing to flowing, from pleasing to embodying, from hoping to knowing. You become a mirror of wholeness, and those who are not whole cannot look into you for long. They will fall away, not because you failed, but because they could not meet you where you now stand. And you do not lower yourself anymore to be loved. You do not fragment yourself to be understood. You do not shrink to be safe. You rise even if you shake. You glow even if you grieve. You continue because now you've tasted what it feels like to belong to yourself. This is who you are becoming. A woman who does not try to attract. She simply becomes. And from that becoming, all things align, not because you wish for them, but because you now live as the version of you who is already worthy of them. So when you look out into the world and ask, why is this my reality? Turn inward and ask instead, what is my energy echoing outward? Who am I being? Not in image, but in essence. That is the root. That is the shift. That is the portal. Because remember, you are not here to chase a life that barely holds you. You are here to become the woman who magnetizes the one that does. And now you finally are.